I direct the Poetry Channel on YouTube and edit the Beltway Poetry Quarterly. I'm a poet. I met Jack a few years ago on Lawrence Ferlinghetti's 100th birthday. And prior to that, I corresponded with him and started to send him my poems. And I started to send them at a furious clip, and he responded with a furious clip too. He was a very generous respondent and very kind to me, and even without knowing me physically, personally. And then when we met, the relationship just prospered and grew, and he was very kind to write a comment on one of my books, The Migrant States, and also on a book that's coming out next year called Poet Nan Paul La, The Poet in the Port, a book in Creole translated into English. He also, I mean, he so many things, so much good for poets and poetry all over the world. And he's much beloved all over the world in many places. And I'm just grateful to have had a chance to have met him and to have corresponded with him and known him virtually in various Zoom readings and meetings, and to have published him as well in the Beltway Poetry Quarterly. I'd like to invite Aggie, Agneta Falk Hirschman, his dearly spouse, his wife, his poet partner, to begin the reading formally. And Aggie, the microphone is yours. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. It's on mute. It's a great pleasure to be here. I was going to read a poem by Jack, which I now believe a lot of people probably have planned to read. And could you put your hands up if you plan to read Path? Yes, many people. So I'm going to read the other poem, which is one of my favorite poems. It's a little bit longer, but the second one I'm reading, which I wrote many years ago to Jack, is very short. So is that okay if I read Mother?
Yes, please.
Okay. Mother. We are not in this world. A long time ago, it happened, it was over. The world, the war, the world war. I took you by the hand through it, tiniest hand, tiniest star. You didn't move then, I was dead, then you were dead. In the open mouth of grief, there is a candle. I'm not with my breath, I'm the slow peeling away of the skin, and all the death I've seen registers in my eyes. I've been a laughing tree besides a stove of honeyed bananas. I've been a silver fox and the elegance of heels. I've been what has brought you down, and the words you look up have been the spit upon and the ganged, the slain and the invisible, the bitch of the moons, the whiplash of the compassion behind the drug of sluts, the red thread that liberates all convicts, the thimble that balances your jiggers, the kalimba, the raps, your nightmare in lullabies, the power of birth when a child dies. We are not of this world. A long time ago, it happened, it was over. The world, the war, the world war. I took you by the hand through it. Tiniest hand, tiniest star. Why should I weep? No, now that you have entered the darkness. Many like me are around you. Our ether is without end. And should we never speak again, you shall write our conversation. should my voice fall short of your heart. But that is impossible. You're still such a child. I'm weeping at a window. Other voices will lift mine and carry to the center of your breathing. Oh, my beloved, when you burst into flames, when your bones were blistered at those precise moments, who drove the seeds in a rapid torrent of thighs and targeted the yearning eggs with glory. When you grow like a primer into a text of rage at all the injustice of this profiteering hell, when your mind was broken, when your sex was split like Korea, Vietnam, like the North and South, when poison came with pleasure and the antidote was dead. Who cut it through the air as if wringing a chicken's neck? Who tore the feathers and flung them to cushion your fall? I am the created who runs through the streets, screaming your name against the mockery. I am the deep sleep of the suicide and the cataracts of the memorial hair. I am the attack of liberty on the heart of heart and the poem on the heart of hearing, the solitude, the grace, the smile that returns your smile from the depths of the biology of a labor and joy. Only the heartbeats of the dithyramb approach. Only the soul thrums of the cosmos define. We are not in this world a long time ago. It happened, it was over, the world war, the world war. I took you by the hand through it, tiniest hand, tiniest star. That's one of my favorite Jack poems.
That's magnificent, beautiful to begin with.
Short poem. I wrote this poem in 1995 when we first sort of became our love affair. And this is, I could have written this just the other day. That's what's so strange about it. It's called Autumn Song. The days grow hoarse. The colors of autumn will soon die in the frost. Time has passed, gentle beast. What remains is the silhouette of your laughter, the deep joy slowly gathering in the vestibule for the final kiss. Yet I wait for I don't know what. Hope the words that burns in my throat will catch a wind and fly with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Aggie. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to call on my friend Abhay K, Indian poet and diplomat, to read now for Jack. Abhay, go ahead. You're muted, Abhay.
Hello.
Okay.
Warm greetings to everyone from Madagascar. I'm particularly moved by the reading of Aggie, which was very moving to me. I would read Path by Jack Hirschman, which speaks to me. And then I'll share a poem related to this evening. Path, Jack Hirschman. Go to your broken heart. If you think you don't have one, get one. To get one, be sincere. Learn sincerity of intent by letting life enter, because you are helpless, really, to do otherwise. Even as you try escaping, let it take you and tear you open, like a letter sent, like a sentence inside you have waited for all your life, though you have committed nothing. Let it send you up. Let it break you, heart. Brokenheartedness is the beginning of all reception. The ear of humility hears beyond the gates. See the gates opening. Feel your hands going akimbo on your hips, your mouth opening like a womb, giving birth to your voice for the first time. Go singing, whirling into the glory of being ecstatically simple. Right poem. Thank you. And a poem, I would like to read a very short poem of my own about death. And it is called When My Breath Becomes Air. And it's about the death of poets. I mean, all poets. When my breath becomes air, don't despair. Scatter my ashes somewhere on the earth. Don't care to build a shrine. Read my poems. I live in them. They are my home. Thank you, Indran.
Thank you, Abhay. Thank you, all. We live in our poems. Our poems live. Thank you. Now, I would like to turn to Joanna Solfrian, my dear friend from New York, and ask Joanna to read. Thank you.
Sure. I am going to read Two by Jack, the poem called Two, not two poems, Two. In the beginning, I was soused with words. The page wasn't wide enough to hold my spill over. I ran and ran, and the puns and brash brandy flew out of my mouth slant rhymed. In time, I looked at her. The lines broke. Look at mine, look at hers, and neither died of it. That Irishman, they say, sang best at 77. It isn't easy to write the word love and mean it, to speak open. I just love that one.
Marvelous, yeah. It isn't easy to write the word love and speak it.
Okay. Yes. And then I'll read one of my own, just, about a couple who suffered a loss of one half of the couple. And I'll read this for Aggie, whom I don't know, just meeting today. And your reading was wonderful. I was very moved by it. Thank you. This is called The Circumference of Time, and it's a ghazal. So it's expected to be a bit disjointed. Okay, The Circumference of Time. Each day of their lives together, a hand from a great height erased a line. The day the last line was erased, the man stepped onto the porch to toss seeds to the birds. An ordinary afternoon, until his heart turned to the great height and seized all that he loved in its chambers, the schoolroom, the algorithms, the woman, and the birds, his stewards, until the police came. In his grave, it doesn't matter. Each February, the man and the woman write their names on a tablecloth. When he leans over to touch her hand, a bird wings to the window of St. Valentine's cell, a heart-shaped leaf in its beak. The saint traces a love note on what the trees let go. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Joanna. I'd like to call on now my friend and the poet and editor, Marc Vincenz, who will read to us from his home in Massachusetts. Go ahead, Marc.
Thank you, Indran. This is a poem by Jack called Who Cares? But the nothingness he meant, which now is planetary, isn't negative, rather an aperture, an opening to the other side of actual self, to the process of hearing light, not unlike yourself, when you bring all that in your everyday seems drifting, ever more ungraspable and transient, where all values beyond money seem rootless and on the wane. Bring them along with your crumpled body in the darkness, and afterward, because sex is of animals and the stars, is in fact happily the animal and the stars. Find that point outside the window, ancient grit of wall or tree or lichen, and gaze at it, enthralled, fixed, as if nothing were ever so radiant, meditative, informative, attuned, like a computer window in a world of cybernetics, he said, speaking of the future some 30-odd years ago, of this visual listening to light just below the surface of things, this planetary all in you, constructed of holocausts and ecstasies, the snail's inch and the worker's steel, demonstrations and monotonies, golem and robot, opens to receive most stumblingly, hungrily, desolately, authentically, sounds from deep within the wilding stillness. And there, when 5 small human bones tug at your sleeve of skin, the question mark falls away, and you know who cares.
Marvelous, marvelous. Thank you.
And this one is a kind of mirror my own, a stone's throw. For Denise in her shadow, follow the veins in her arms. At the river, they gather and all the stones return to life. Less manifest than now, more a sign leading us where the crystal refracts, where that something becomes divine. Oh yes, we are so easily appeased. With that man at your side, how could you ever be at anyone's mercy? Meaning could be composed of virtually anything. But we want the bell to resound through the foundations. What God has a chance under conditions like that? Watch for tarantulas here. They sneak through the muddy creek showing the storms, and yet they always declare, I am ready. Your fingers hold the last fragment. Beyond the forest, the fragile architectures peter out, arches, shadows, trestles, and trusses. Oh, the spores of the once possible, a mushroom says. Whoops, I lost my place here. Excuse me. Oh dear. I think I'm going to have to cut it at that because totally lost my place there. But the most important was to hear Aggie earlier on, and I really appreciate this opportunity. And thank you, Indran, for making this happen.
Thank you, Marc. All the best to you. And now I'd like to call on Lisbit Bailey. Lisbit?
Yes, thank you, Indran. I'd like to read two poems. The first one is Jack's, and the second one is mine. And this is from his All That's Left book. And it's the Poets 11 poem. And Poets 11 was something Jack did for the city of San Francisco. Poets from all the districts would be gathered in, and it was just an important collective work that I think he really loved. So here's that poem, Poets 11 poem. Between the page with the heart and the mind wrestling upon it, and the ear which later will receive those limbs of light as perfect harmony, there's a stillness whose volume speaks worlds of words defiant of measure, treasures of the unsayable, secrets of the ever-beginning enchantment, and the never-ending gathering at the lips of the kiss of the poem.
Beautiful.
And this is my poem. It's called Breathing Room. Here in this room where I breathe in and out, nose and mouth, deep and easy when relaxed, shallow when tense and fearful. I'm on a mat and zafu, wrapped in an Afghan in a darkened room. Postures, words, pictures breathe, define the confines depending on my state of mind. Nothing stops my breathing, so I hold my breath and let it go. I'm in control. Inflate a room-shaped space. Breathe the illusion of breath fettered by COVID. Masks layered and filtered of closely woven cloths fitted over nose and mouth. Mandated safety measures, distance in 6-foot increments, or at least every other seat. Take a stand on socially distanced spots while waiting in lines on sidewalks. Sanitizing to remove the blight of blot before, during, and after. Symptoms, what do they matter? More wedges hammered down to divide up, divvy out, and scatter. Zooming in from isolated rooms, virtually close up to each other across the empty distance. Between me and thee while we're absent, one from the other. Feeling alienated in this alien nation, this is the state of the union. Who is vaccinated, who is not? Are you deceived? Who to believe? Who do you breathe? Breathing stopped by a storm of bullets, a dark haze, or a gripping friction suffocating those with the most to live. Choke on smoke and pollution, faint from lack of oxygen, gasp with indigestible options. Slept last week, maybe eat today, get warm and dry tomorrow. May we find room to breathe. May we breathe deep and full. May we gain respite with every breath. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisbit. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. Hard to, well, let's hear now from most dear friend and really a great, very close confidant also of Jack, reading to us from the state of New Mexico. Bill Nevins. Go ahead, Bill.
Thank you. Thank you, Indran, for putting this together, and love you, Aggie. This poem, I'll read a poem I wrote, and then I'll read a poem by Jack. I'll try to do it quickly.
Please take your time. Yeah.
You can hear me okay. Hirschman, a poem in 3 parts. For Aggie and Jack y nosotros agus muy friend. Part 1. Proud Jack in the morning of this new world. Don't mourn. Organize. Jack Hirschman in the city lights stacks declaiming his arcanes where Sharon Dubiago first introduced us years ago. Jack on the bus riding to a reading, red scarf wrapped, smiling with his satchel of poems under his arm. Jack singing in Russian to the good woman of specs who handed him a chocolate cake and a hug for his birthday. Jack at the Buddhist school teaching the rich Naropa kids the manifesto, the greatest poem of all. As Alan's double rainbow graced the boulder sky, Jack coming home after an evening of people's poetry work to Aggie and we too, visitors from afar, filling our glasses with vodka or wine, then reciting Sailing to Byzantium in its entirety from memory to show us what pure poetry can mean, to show us what the mind needs, to show the red way as revolution and danced and sang.
Bill, we've lost the sound. Let's, can you hear us, Bill? Bill, can you hear us? Okay. Let's go back to Bill in a few minutes and hear his other poem. I'll come back to Bill. And let's hear now from Mahnaz Badihian, who is, I believe, reciting from San Francisco, if I'm correct.
Correct. Good morning, everyone.
Go ahead, Mahnaz.
Yes, I want to salute my dear friend Aggie for being so brave and reading with us today. It's exceptionally amazing to hear her voice today. I was prepared to read Pat and in its translation in Farsi, but I believe there are other people going to read Pat, so this is the last minute change. I'm going to read a poem called Happiness. Its translation in Farsi is a short poem. And then my poem to Jack. Happiness. There is a happiness, a joy in one's soul that's been buried alive in everyone and forgotten. It isn't your barroom joke or tender, intimate humor or affections of friendliness or big bright poem. They are the surviving survivors of what happened with happiness, was buried alive when it no longer looked out of today's eyes and doesn't even manifest when one of us dies. We just walk away from everything alone with what is left of us, going on being a human being without being human, going on being human beings without being human, without that happiness. خوشحالی خوشحالی است و شادی در یک روح که زنده به گور شده، در همه و فراموش شده. این شوخی کاباره‌ای نیست یا لطیفه و طنزی خودمانی یا حرفی روشن و بزرگ و دو پهلو. آنها بازمانده های نجات یافته هستند از آنچه اتفاق افتاد وقتی شادی زنده به گور شد و دیگر نگاهش متوجه نگاه امروز نبود. حتی وقتی یکی از ما میمیرد آشکار نمی شود. ما فقط از همه چیز به تنهایی عبور می کنیم، یا چیزی که از ما باقی مانده. می رویم که انسان باشیم بدون اینکه انسان باشیم، بدون آن خوشحالی. And now my poem for my beautiful, amazing Jack that I'm sure everyone is suffering right now, especially poets in San Francisco, because we used to see him or hear from him daily, weekly. For the red poet, Jack Hirschman. I feel closer to the galaxy today, soaking on the rain, following the lost stars, with its news waking me up all night, with wondrous arcane poems chewing on my books. But can one believe that guiding voice of love leaves this earth while his footsteps are still alive in North Beach? Which part of this galaxy he was landed now? Maybe he flew to eternity to spread love from above. Who was he? Tall, with the wild mustache, with the heart as sensitive as a child, and the energy of young lions. Now that he will not walk around city lights, now that he will not meet us in Cafe Triste, and will not send us emails, I think the end is not too far for all of us. How is it possible to see the sun go down right in the heart of summer in the city of San Francisco? That red poet will never come to my house again to eat Persian food and read Rumi with me. I will complain to Rumi. I will complain to Walt Whitman for inviting Jack to eternity, only to have the red poet next to them. But let's remember to celebrate Jack. Let's dance behind house number 858A. Let's put red roses in Aggie's hair, celebrating the man we all adored. The man we all adored. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we've lost him to Walt Whitman.
They invited him. They invited him. They loved him too much.
Thank you, Mahnaz. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I would like to, Bill, can you hear us, Bill?
Yes, I can hear you. And I've moved to a place where I hope you can hear me. Can you?
All right. Yes, we can. Why don't you go ahead, Bill, and read now. We heard most of the first poem, but if you'd like to read it again and Jack's poem, that is fine. Go ahead.
Kara Jack in the morning of this new world. Jack Hirschman in the city lights stacks, declaiming his arcanes where Sharon DiBiago first introduced us years ago. Jack on the bus riding to a reading, red scarf wrapped, smiling with his satchel of poems under his arm. Jack singing in Russian to a good woman of specs who handed him a chocolate cake and a hug for his birthday. Jack at the Buddhist school, teaching the rich Naropa kids the manifesto, greatest poem of all, as Alan's double rainbow graced that bolder sky. Jack coming home after an evening of people's poetry work to Aggie and we too, visitors from afar, filling our glasses with vodka or wine, then reciting Sailing to Byzantium in its entirety from memory, to show us what pure poetry can mean, to show us what the mind can be, to show the red way as revolution rose from the streets of North Beach, as Jack laughed and loved and danced and sang, as our lives rolled on, as the world began, as Jack lives with us each brave new dawn. Part 2, Jack in the Long March. Most poets are like meteors slicing our sky. They flash, they are beautiful, and then they are gone in the blink of an eye. Most poets, even fine and lovely ones, will be forgotten in the long run. Jack is more than most poets. History will not forget Jack Hirschman. Viva Jack Hirschman! Jack Hirschman, presente. Part 3, Jack.
Bravo, bravo. Go ahead.
Let the ruling classes tremble at a communistic revolution. The proletarians have nothing to lose but their chains. They have a world to win. Workers of all countries, unite. Mira, compa Jack, venceremos. Those are my little poems. All right, I'm going to read this fast just because it's a beautiful poem by Jack, but it's long. When we tear tomorrow open, when there aren't enough pencils to go round, a teacher's forced to pay for them out of her pocket. She has children, they need to write. A mother's relieved in quotes of her hungry kids and put into the slammer for defrauding, in quotes, welfare of $130. No wonder so easily the teenagers, I'm out of here. And meaning a lethal hotshot in the arm or a swing over the rail of the Golden Gate, sheer plod does not make Cillian shine. Just a leftover tinfoil sandwich in a garbage bin. Kafka wrote this building, Keith McHenry said, standing in the marble corridor of 850 Bryant, awaiting the trial of Sarah Menefee for having given free food without a permit, and Jackson smashed by the cops into a window, and King savaged by bats held by men in blue sheets in the gutter. The glass, the cuts, the bruises, the cuts, the indignities, and still the collateral cuts, and more coming and more. What the hell are we in this for? Our good name? The system's already numbered it. Our dying schmatas, our clear thoughts about the end of Western civilization, your hopeless feud with the devil, my foot. I want some breakneck speed to wrap me round in a typhoon of people's rights. No more half-assed splinter routes to a trickle-down reform. No more gunpowder, I dare, without feet in the real. I'm talking about yesterday's calamity and how the law comes down with its teeth, closing out the story, gets in the way of the future, upholds its relation to property, leaves its scars on every soul, a ticket, a warrant, an injunction, the sweep of its foolish liberty to be a cellular phone to a corporation. All right. Getting off this raw without much to swing on, the lights are going out in the west. The whole pack slivered into insidiously shepherded individuals, chopped into instances, cyclical. What's up? Hi there. And other one-liney spots. Hopeless stuff, crack-brained liberty. Nothing fits right foot and the left is dead. We'd better organize and fight together and put some real class in that anarchy it's fitted us all out with, because you can virtually smell the clanking military might right in your neighborhood. When we struggle together from the very first ascent, the lash will be stayed, the club paralyzed in the air, and when we go deeper together, deeper than sex or race, deeper than the ancestral faces of the dead with their souls of blood, and the tenderness that curls clear down in the spiral of the genes. When we tear tomorrow open and all together now throw our lives into our voice and our voices into the song, it cannot hold us back. It must give way. It's already crumbling of its own exploitations. We can't but be what all this human injustice was meant to be toppled by, and it will be. We know it will. We who have mastered the smithereens. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Bill. Let us tear tomorrow open. Thank you, Jack. Let us tear tomorrow open. I'd like to invite Niloufar Talebi to read now. Niloufar.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for this beautiful gathering. Aggie, it's so lovely to see you again and to hear you read, and everyone else as well. I'm going to read a poem in homage to Jack that's written by an Iranian poet who Jack loved and championed the translation of his works, and certainly championed me in translating Ahmad Shamlou's work. The poet's name is Ahmad Shamlou. He lived between 1925 and the year 2000, and he was a revolutionary and had an incredibly international engagement with and sense of poetry and the arts, much like Jack. Jack and Shamlou have always reminded me of each other. This is a 1975 poem by Ahmad Shamlou called Funeral Address. It's dedicated to Che Guevara, and it's about the uniqueness and the difference in those who dare to risk everything in the path for their own truth and for humanity's truth. Funeral Address. This is my translation, English translation of it. The unknowing are alike. Only the tempest breeds peerless children. Those alike are shadow-like, cautious on the fringes of sunlight, dead in the guise of the living. And they are the throwers of caution to the wind, guardians of fires, the living shoulder to shoulder with death, marching ahead of death, forever alive after death, forever by the name with which they lived, for ruin passes under their towering vision, downcast and shamefaced. Discoverers of the fountainhead, humble discoverers of hemlock, seekers of joy in the volcano's path, magicians of smiles in nightcaps of pain, with footprints deeper than joy in flyways of birds. They brace thunder, enlighten the house, and die. Thank you very much for this opportunity to pay homage to our dear, beloved friend and colleague and beacon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Niloufar. A deeply moving poem and a powerful poem. Thank you. I'd like to invite the poet Jonathan Harrington to his window. Jonathan will be reading to us from New York, but he's usually based in Yucatan, Mexico, and delighted that he can join us. A great poet and close friend.
Thank you, Indran. Thank you very much. And thank you, Aggie, for your beautiful tribute and introduction to this gathering of poets in honor of Jack Hirschman. I met Jack in San Francisco many years ago, along with Bob Kaufman and some of the other big poets of that era. And I'd like to read one of Jack's, I think, more lighthearted poems. It's called The Baseball Poem.
Lovely.
A wrist to repeat with a shift of accent, mood of emphasis, attentive to, now needed. The wrist I lost hold of what was most loved as a kid in the swing of Ted Williams, the effortlessly breaking as of the curved way true to the mark of the stuff of Prince Hal. The poem ought to be, as love is, a style she holds out to me to perch on the pulse of aristocratically, as I am not so, but can at will flop for sloppily to please the crowd. And I would like to read one of my own poems that I hope will be appropriate to the occasion. It was commissioned by the Comunidad de Dibujantes del Sureste, which is a group of young Mexican artists who write and illustrate graphic novels in Yucatan, Mexico, where I live. I'm visiting now in New York. They asked me to write a poem for the Day of the Dead, and so that they could illustrate it, which I did, and they made a beautiful illustration. And I would like to dedicate this to Jack. The dead. Who are the dead, really? Faces and family photos that only the very old can recognize? No, because they are still alive as long as there is at least one person who remembers them. But who that silver-haired woman standing behind grandfather at his 90th birthday celebration? Wasn't her name Agnes or Agnella? No. Adela? Was she a relative? Or maybe more? No. Grandfather? But no one knows anymore. Forgotten, she is at last truly dead. While the departed live in our memories, they are still with us. But as they recede further and further into the mist of amnesia, then at last they have joined that choir of forgotten voices that are truly, finally, dead. Jack will not be forgotten, nor will his voice be forgotten. He's left us with almost, I believe, over 50 books of poetry. So we will always be able to hear his voice. And I send my condolences to you, Aggie, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan. You know, I think there are more than 100 books, including the translations and all the small books. So amazing production. I've just been teaching a course on Neruda, who left 3,000 pages, but Jack, I think, left more than that. And Jack and Neruda were like brothers, in a sense. You know, I would like to call on, I'm going to read also a poem, but I'll wait until after the next poet. I'd like to introduce to you a very fine poet we just published in Beltway, Karen Poppy. Karen, go ahead.
Hello, everybody. And Indran, thank you for having me read today and for publishing my work. Aggie, I'm so sorry for your tremendous loss. And I'm sorry to all of the friends here and poets who have also had such a loss. Jack had a tremendous, beautiful, generous, poetic spirit. I saw him last also at the 100th birthday of Lawrence Ferlinghetti, but 20 years before that at Lawrence Ferlinghetti's 80th birthday party, he was there too, and I had him sign a book that I had made by hand called Plums, and it was a book with poems in it about plums, including his Zek's poem. It's in Endless Threshold. Zek's poem. O plum, you round of juices that sing in me, who am the pits. Come, break your plunge on me. I want my dregs opened, my ferment spiced by your lips, my fondle bone giving you swim for swum. O plum, you round, double blush in my palms. I'll read a poem of mine next that was also in that little book. And if anyone has a copy of the video or film of both Jack and I reading at Lawrence Ferlinghetti's 80th birthday party, I would love to see that. I haven't been able to find it. So if anyone has it, please, please find me and share it with me. I'd appreciate that so, so much. I'm not sure if I'm able to share the screen, but I'm going to try because my poem is a poem with shape. It says host disabled, participant screen sharing. So that's okay. I can just read it.
That's okay. We've just enabled it for you. So go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Can everyone see it now? Okay.
Yep.
My plum. Before bed, yes. Your body is like no ripe fruit. I love its bitter saltiness, green saturation on my tongue, waxy before washing it. I love its unfold decreasedness, yes. Simplification on my smooth, your smooth, smoothing my smooth. Oh, so smoothly. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Karen. I'm going to, your screen is still being shared. I'm not sure how to.
I'm trying to get it off.
That's okay. Maybe Don, who's really the wizard behind all of this, Don Krieger, can do the honors.
Yes, if Don can stop me, I would appreciate that.
Okay, there you go. Thank you so much. I'm going to take the opportunity to read a poem now, one of Jack's and one of my own in tribute to Jack. The poem of Jack's is called The Nora Arcane. And we published it in the Beltway Poetry Quarterly, The Nora Arcane. I can't begin writing this poem about you, Nora, without wanting suddenly to write a Hebrew letter. I'm a rather militant anti-Zionist, as you know, and will have no word to say to any opportunist who makes a religion of the Holocaust and says Karl Marx was full of shit. I know your Jewishness verges on Zionism, that Israel for you in your days is Israel more than 5,000 years ago, that you don't see the Palestinians as the real Jews of today, that you keep to Israel in living memory, and that is something after the bestial Holocaust, I understand, even though politically it's engendered reciprocal evil. Yet thinking of you makes me want to write or draw a Hebrew letter, any one of the Aleph Bais. I've learned them all through my 82 years alive, because I've always adored their shape, the way you always adored me, dearest cousin, perhaps through my father Sheppy, for his having always made you hysterically laugh with his 100 jokes. And though you never knew David, my son, who died at 25 of cancer in California, you planted a tree of life in his name in Israel the following year. And for that, what might an old communist Kabbalist say, except may you be the thunder that rumbling says, Aleph Bais Gimeldal Leth Hayav Vov, that announces the rain of the tears that wash away the pain of the fears between. I've written a few poems since Jack's passing, and one of them I wrote in French. I'll share that one with you. That's all right. It's just called Jack. Jack Hirschman est mort, le corps, je veux dire, d'une crise cardiaque pendant son sommeil. Son dernier manuscrit prêt, juste avant son voyage planifié chez son éditeur à Salerno, Italie. Quelques détails. On m'a dit qu'une foule d'amis visite la maison de North Beach, San Francisco, reste dans le jardin, prendre les pots de vin en accompagnant la veuve, un poète aussi, Aggie. Quelques détails. Mais personne parle de son âme, sauf dans des milliers de poèmes en train de naître en Italie, aux États-Unis, en Inde, en Haïti. Jack était un poète connu et un ami de la langue haïtienne. Il aimait dire haïtien, non créole, et parler de ses traductions de René Despestre, de Paul Larac et de Denisée Lautour. Il était très content quand je lui ai parlé de mon séjour dans l'île de la Révolution américaine, de la Révolution noire, l'héritage qui donne la force au peuple, le courage en dépit des ravages de l'actualité. Mes amis, Jacques n'est pas mort. Il est devenu un revenant dans ce poème, dans le cœur du monde qui attend un renouvellement du rêve. L'international écrit pour nos temps, quand les forêts et les eaux brûlent et les vents nous donnent une charge de furie inconnue. Dans ce monde, l'âme de Jack vole partout pour répandre un antidote, un poème, ce qu'il appelait un arcane, son mot, pas encore dans les dictionnaires, mais dans mes vers et ceux de mes frères et mes sœurs, et dans leur langue qui bouge, qui danse, qui chante. Monsieur poète des arcanes, merci pour le partage, merci pour la vie. Merci, Jack. Thank you. I'd like to call now on Scott Bird. Scott, would you like to share your poems? Thank you.
Thank you, Indran. I begin by reciting one of Jack's poems that really touched me, called The Birds. I open my throat and your eyes are inside for all to see. Like birds, a chirp or a sleep, a smile or on the wing in the round womb of a sound. They are the sound people say I make. People say, look, he's moaning or raging again. I say, look deeper. I've eaten soul whole. Her eyes are inside me. They see through me. They see me through. That's why I cry nests of light into the ear. Thank you. And I just wanted to read this little poem that I wrote a few days back. I've been finding it hard to write a poem for Jack, but if you could see this one, it is an acrostic inside that's a dictatorship of the proletariat. And when Bill read about the poet, the grand poem of the manifesto, there was this look of glee on Jack's face when I asked him one time, what exactly is the dictatorship of the proletariat? He was all too excited to tell me. This poem is called You Were There. You were there at your own funeral pile, Pernina Jaya, remember? In the corner when they, the words, painting themselves in that last golden open clutched pen scribbled angel writings and taught me the true meaning of the word comrade. It's not an attitude of the intelligentsia, the inside job of the Revs, red blues, blues painted red initials, Yahweh on the tomb. Remember that song at eventide when the volcano inside the earth opened its gape, letting the fountains of the deep undulating seas rise and rise to the tune of the new dawn, new class rising in the wake of the last outbound cargo freighter, never to enter the gate home. You believed in it and me and the dreamers of the would-be interim blast of this country's last imperialist cry, touting it above the white acrostic flags of all nations, trembling with excitement to obliterate the world in fascistic rounds of ammunition on shipping boxcars in the trains outside Sacramento. Hip-locked, cocked and loaded, incoming scope cross-haired on the proletariat, scumming beneath our cries of injustice, flailing our arms in vulnerable twists, flagrantly, foolishly, futilely, hand on the heart of pen, emulating the last plea, paused. You smile. Thought, really. It is because there is a war on and brewing, because literally they are itching for it. Everyone can sense it trigger on the bomb, and the eve of our backs is breaking, heart reeling, rejoicing inwardly. They seem to see it in the Paiute ant pudding flung in the face of the Nazis toward the end. The pie is in their face. None shall walk away smiling until it's over once and for all, this prospect of war on poverty, meaning the war on poor. This war on drugs, meaning the ones that were raised from the fountain of the earth alleviate. The war on terror, meaning the wars that propagate the fear of other. But can we walk through this world as if it were a garden, balancing the oil of shamans on the spoon of tongue, and watch a camellia blossom enter the world in vibrant pink and crumble its edges from the wax leaf to splash the brown mulch of the fallen in the dewdrop life and color. When I look at you, comrade, when I look at you, Caro Jack, I see you twining your hair in the jasmine star chair, and I believe we can. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Scott. It is a very, very deeply moving reading, and we have a number of poets, a few more poets to read, to recite. I'd like to invite sorry, I lost my place. Judy G. Judy, would you like to read next, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm not a poet. Jack is my friend. So I'm going to read, it's a long poem, so maybe I'll just read part of it. It was important to him too. All his poetry was important to him. This is the 4 questions arcane. Why is the night different from all other nights? Leonard is singing. Why is this night stronger than all other nights? Leonard is eating hashish. Why is this light different from all other hashish? Leonard is walking, fully maned through his roar. Why is this voice different from all others? Elijah. It was 48 years ago when I penned the lines above, wanting to gather Leonard. Jack was a very good friend of Leonard Cohen, and they met many years ago on the Greek island of Hydra, and they stayed friends. To gather Jack and the Ari when the word arrived that Lenhart had died by a fall in the fall, and I thought back to the winter of 65, when I first met him on the island of Hydra in Greece, where I came with my first wife, Ruth, and our David, aged 8, and Celia, 6. And the children, and Marianne's Axel, 6, ran free all over that island without cars, while we, young parents, flute with pipe or gongs or piano, keyboard typewriters, and Hash was Hash, and she was another she, he another he. And we all chased, changed, swapped, or wanted to. Ruth and Yorgos after me and Nan. Marianne, the stirrup in the race of your acid, saddle named Diesel, you riding the beautiful losers while beginning your life in song, ambitious to climb over the wave of that son of the sea whose name you'd engraved like a goalpost in your mind. And in the years following, back in LI, we followed the maturing glottal depths of your voice on discs, tonal timbres indescent into the deeper darkening sinceres. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judy. Thank you very much. I would like to invite now Jonathan Timbers. Jonathan, go ahead.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Great. I want to read a translation by Jack of from a book, Fist of Sun, and it's called "We Don't Want Bosses, period." We don't want bosses of any kind, period. They've already splashed around in our blood, already feasted plenty on our lives. Stop asking us so many questions. Look at our injuries, the damage done to peasants and miners. We've got to yank this plant out of the world once and for always. Don't ask anything else of us. We're really made up our guts. We don't want bosses because they're the same as ever, because they want the land all for themselves, because they want the sun all for themselves, because they'll never stop robbing, trampling, and killing day and night under every kind of sky. I can't say how much I miss Jack's presence, but we've got all his wonderful poetry to share.
Yes. Jonathan, would you like to read another poem, or we'll stop there? Okay. I would like to call on Elizabeth Edmonds now to read. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Okay. Hello, everybody. It's wonderful to be here. I've just been enjoying everyone's reading. I met Jack and Aggie in 1997, and I love them very much. And so I'm going to read a poem of Jack's. I'm not a poet. I'm more of a songwriter, but I felt like sharing today. So this is a poem by Jack called The Shades, and it's from a book called Black Alice. The shades. The shades. Finally, I know the shades. Who wears them? Why? Darkness, oh, friends, oh, siblings. The moon is legion. Here are my eyes, taken into the afternoon drums, into the petals of chance, admitted into the bowels of the mantra, wearing the same disguises, showering in golden bowls, bringing tea, bringing out the ching, making the flute appear, playing stops till sundown, having night for breakfast, knowing I am all in this. The madness is the state of orange peel. The radio playing Los Angeles, blind Ray Charles 6,000 miles away on an island in Greece. Nothing here, everything possible, a circle forming a word to be said, a want to be touched, a touch to be reached, a reach to be wronged, a wrong to be sung. Here, darkness flowering, crossing, death longing for hands.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
And then I just wanted to read it's a song that I wrote in 2012. It's called Flower Blossom. It's for Tupelo. See yourself in others' eyes. See things as sons or the self-same child. Beyond the wall, the earth is running bare toward a reckoning. This is our history. See yourself in my eyes, endless, undone, a flower blossom, radiant. Beyond it all, there's new beginnings and endings. Beyond it all, beyond the wall. The cottonwoods, limbs like bones, over the river, orphan to the same child, orphan to the same child. See yourself in others' eyes. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisbit. I'd like to call on Barbara Paschke to read now, and if there's anyone else who would like to share a poem, just to let me know, and otherwise we will open up for a little bit of a conversation before we close. Barbara, go ahead.
This has just been this has been a beautiful, beautiful today. Thank you all. Jack was my original mentor for translation. We met in the very early 80s with the Rocky Dalton Culture Brigade, and the first book I ever worked on was Jack on Poemas Clandestinos. What?
Sorry, there's some interference. Don't worry. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. And this was my first work with him, and we continued on with many translations. He would be sending me things and says, "Oh, look at this," and I just miss him so much, and just breaks my heart. So this is a poem that from this first book that Jack and we all worked on, and it just como tú. Yo como tú amo el amor, la vida, el dulce encanto de las cosas, el paisaje celeste de los días de enero. También mi sangre bulle y río por los ojos que han conocido el brote de las lágrimas. Creo que el mundo es bello, que la poesía es como el pan de todos. Y que mis venas no terminan en mí, sino en la sangre unánime de los que luchan por la vida, el amor, las cosas, el paisaje y el pan, la poesía de todos. Like you, I love life. I love love, life, the sweet smell of things, the sky blue landscape of January days. And my blood boils up and I laugh through eyes that have known the buds of tears. I believe the world is beautiful and that poetry, like bread, is for everyone. And that my veins don't end in me, but in the unanimous blood of those who struggle for life, love, little things, landscape and bread, the poetry of everyone and for all of us. So, blessings to all.
Thank you.
Jack.
Thank you, Barbara. Lovely. I would like to present now a very fine poet, Rosa Alice Branco. She writes in Portuguese, but of course, she may be reading in French today. Rosa Alice is based in Portugal and is really one of that country's great poets, and we are so grateful for her and a great reader of Jack. So welcome, Rosa Alice. Thank you. Obrigado.
Thank you, Indran. Thank him for this tribute for Jack Hirschman. I met him the first time in Trois-Rivières Festival, Quebec. So I can say that I met him namely in French language. I read first a little part of a poem that I translate to Portuguese. And this signifies that it's a hope that one of the next translations will be in Portugal, in Portuguese language, in the translations of Jack poems. Então, balanço contra paredes de lotes de escritórios ou contra janelas de bancos, sempre seguindo o meu caminho, sempre, enquanto regresso uma vez mais e outra vez do centro da cidade. And now I will read in French a poem of Jack that is La Balle. En allant à pied du bureau de poste Embarcadero jusqu'à la plage nord, je jette une balle noire contre murs et fenêtres. Et sur ma route, voilà que je place la balle quelques instants dans un creux, le bout du tuyau vertical d'un piquet de parc-mètres supprimé. Oh, les temps sont durs. La balle s'ajuste parfaitement et dans ce court instant, j'ai le sentiment de ce qu'est la justice populaire. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Muito obrigado, Rosa Alice. Thank you. I would like to now call on Lappo Guzzini. Lappo, are you able to join now? I know you are waiting for...
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well. Thank you.
Hi. Well, yes, I was going to read a poem by Sandro Sardella, whose work I've been translating on Jack's invitation. And I was hoping you could read the Italian version, but he seems to be unable to connect. So I will just double check, because this has happened before, that he arrived at the last second. So one time I read for him, but he was already connected. So I'm just double checking that he hasn't managed, but it doesn't look that way. So I will go ahead and read his Italian poem and my translation in English.
May I interrupt for just a moment? I see that there's a second person named Lappo Guzzini connected.
Lappo, I'm here.
Oh,
okay.
He's here. Good.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Bravo, bravo.
Okay. In the nick of time.
I read Italian. I read
Yes,
Italian
please
after
do,
you read the translation.
I shared my link, so I guess
I have difficult. Wait, thank you.
Please go ahead. I will mute myself and then come in and read the English later on. Thank you. Hi, Sandro.
I read. Wait. Compagno Jack, elegia di scanto. A Agneta Falk Hirschman. Ti sei addormito fisso, disgraziato. M'hai frecato, me che stavo di te aspettante nell'Italy 2021, nella fine dell'agosto infuocato. Operaio anonimo. 1. Nell'estate italiana, la tua rapida, silenziosa morte è nelle voci dei compagni e delle compagne. È il mio cuore restaurato che palpita. È la mia mente che corre, si inceppa. È il telefono, la mail che scottano di te. Le dita sono punte dalle spine di questo anno di partenze. Lores Ferlinghetti, Paul Polanski, Joseph Hosti, Sante Notar Nicola, Giancarlo Maiorino, Arturo Schwarz, Gino Strada, Piera degli Esposti e adesso tu, compagno Jack. 2. Is a hard rain on my heart. Il cespuglio vicino a casa è coperto di rose rosse. Ci siete tutti, compagni e compagne. Nel vostro splendore, nel vostro partire, continuate ad accompagnarmi. La porta della mia casa continuerà ad essere aperta. Caro compagno Jack, ombre, aloni di ricordi stanno muti. Cerco le tue lettere, le fotografie, tocco i tuoi libri, i disegni, le pitture. Abbraccio i mondi che mi hai aperto, tu che mi hai guardato nel cuore e nell'anima. 3. Stasera la luna è blu. Stai seduto, tieni sulle ginocchia un blocco e una penna. Stai scrivendo l'ultima riga per i tuoi arcani. Mentre io sto guardando alcune foto ritrovate che Luigi, ex postino fotografo, nell'ordinario suo archivio mi ha inviate. Sì, proprio stasera. Rivedo te e me a una tua lettura nel 1997 in Milano alla Kaluska City Light Cox 18. Ti guardavo Il pensiero tenero correva all'antica amicizia, al vigore che mi hai dato. Ti sentivo vicino, generoso, sconfinato. Tu, comunista militante rivoluzionario, la tua lotta, la tua passione, dove l'amore diventa opposizione, che vibra di erotismo per una solidarietà universale, sogno di un planetariato alla riscossa. La tua tuonante voce ancora squarcia le tenebre delle guerre, delle ingiustizie, del potere. 4. Caro compagno Jack, mi hai lasciato latte e miele per resistere, per continuare il mio viaggio, il nostro viaggio. Nazdarovia, Nazdarovia, la vodka che tu amavi tanto rinfresca la mia sete, lenisce la tua improvvisa partenza. Lontano, accompagnata da un pianoforte un poco sgangherato, lontano, lontano in un crescendo la tua voce boom boom canta l'Internazionale. Lontano, a piedi nudi accenni qualche passo di ballo quando la fisarmonica suona Bella Ciao. Il tuo sentiero, il tuo fuoco brilla, avvolge, ubriaca solitudini, invita alla poesia. Addio compagno Jack, abbracciando teneramente Agneta, abbracciando le brigate dei poeti rivoluzionari nate dal tuo entusiasmo, abbracciandoti vado al mio cuore infranto. Nazdarovia, Tovarish.
Bravo, bravo.
Grazie.
Lappo.
Bravo, Sandro. Okay. In English. Comrade Jack, Elegy Descant. For Agneta, Falk, Hirschman. You felt solid asleep, you rascal. You fooled me. Me who was expecting you in 2021 Italy at the end of this burning August. Anonymous worker. 1. In the Italian summer, your swift, silent death is in the voices of comrades, brothers and sisters. Is my restored heart pulsating? Is my running mind getting jammed? Is the phone and email burning with you? Fingers pricked by the thorns of this year of departures. Lawrence Ferlinghetti, Paul Polanski, Josip Osti, Santino Tarnicola, Giancarlo Maiorino, Arturo Schwartz, Gino Strada, Piero degli Esposti, and now you, Comrade Jack. 2. It's a hard rain on my heart. The shrub near my home is covered in red roses. You are all there. Comrades, brothers and sisters, in your splendor, in your departure, you continue to accompany me. The door of my home will stay open. Dear Comrade Jack, shadows, halos of memories remain mute. I search for your letters, the photographs. I touch your books, the drawings, the paintings. I embrace the worlds you opened for me, you who gazed into my heart and my soul. 3. Tonight the moon is blue. You sit with a pen and pad on your knees. You are writing the last line of your arcanes. While I look through some rediscovered photographs, which Luigi, photographer and former postman, sent me, yes, this very evening. As he was sorting through his archive, I see you again at one of your readings in 1997 in Milan at Kaluska City Lights, Cox 18. I was looking at you. A tender thought ran to the ancient friendship, at the strength you gave me. I felt you close, generous, boundless. You, communist, militant, revolutionary, your struggle, your passion, where love becomes resistance, vibrating with eroticism for a universal solidarity, dream of a planetariat to the rescue. Your thundering voice still tears through the darkness of war, of injustice, of power. 4. Dear comrade Jack, you left me milk and honey to resist, to continue my voyage, our voyage. Nostrovia, Nostrovia, the vodka you love so well, quenches my thirst, soothes your sudden departure, far away, accompanied by a slightly rickety piano, far away. In a crescendo, your boom, boom voice sings the International. Far away, barefoot, you trace a few dancing steps while the accordion plays Bella Ciao. Your path, your fire sparkles, engulfs, intoxicates, solitudes, invites to poetry. Farewell, dear comrade Jack. Tenderly embracing Agneta, embracing the revolutionary poets' brigades born of your enthusiasm, embracing you, I go to my broken heart. Nazdrovia, tovarish. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandro. Thank you, Lappo.
Grazie, grazie.
Grazie. Look, all good things will never end. You know, they will continue. The poems will live. We have, and our voices will keep reciting them. We have one more poet to share with us, Sarah Menefee, and then we will have a little chat and then close the ceremony. I would like to ask Aggie to speak again at the end. Sarah, go ahead.
Thank you, and for organizing this. Thank you, everybody. It's beautiful to hear all the voices, Aggie. I'm going to read the thing about Jack. You know, people would meet him once and just fall in love with him. The kindness was just straight from human heart to human heart. And he treated everybody the same. Now, this is a poem called Human Interlude. It's from his book, Endless Threshold. It's for Terry Garvin. Excuse me. A little sip of coffee here. I'm going to read a short one of mine. She was standing against the wall near the Tavera Hotel, holding a plastic cup as it began to rain. I dug for a coin, walked up to her and dropped it in. It fell to the bottom of an orange drink. I blushed, looked into her ravaged eyes and skin and hair prematurely graying, and said, I was sorry. I thought she needed some bread. I do, she said, and smiled. I was just having a little drink. And we stood there laughing together as we watched the
Sarah, we have lost your sound. Sarah, are you there? Don, is Sarah connected or is she?
She froze up. She's frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's about to disconnect automatically. Something's wrong.
Okay. You know, let's see if she comes back on. I don't think there's anyone else who would like to read. If there is, please let me know. at this point. I would like to, if there isn't, I would like to call on Aggie. Aggie, would you mind speaking to all of us again and officially sort of closing the ceremony? Go ahead, Aggie.
First of all, I'm deeply moved by all these voices. Everyone's word, everyone's feelings about Jack and what he emanated, which was love and comradeship. And it was so wonderful to see Sandro, Sardella, with his spiral green staircase. We have climbed up there. As you all know, Jack was a very rare human being. I don't think they make them like that anymore. Well, I hope they do. And he left us all with a lot of love. Mm-hmm. And each one has given another perspective of the person he was. I'm so deeply touched by all your words and your poems and the poems you chose to read. If you don't mind, I'd like to read one short little poem that I wrote also many years ago when we were parted for a while, but it's uncanny how this, do you mind me reading it? It's very short.
Please go ahead.
It's very uncanny because I could again have written this poem yesterday. So it's a personal poem. It's called To the Room. I said to the room, I love you, Jack, and wrapped your name around me tight. With not a care in the world, letting go of you, knowing you would live on inside me, in every move and gesture I make, the way I sit at the table or color my days, knowing that in an autumn leaf, I can touch you, conjure you up in stone walls from here to far, set me free to love this way, let me fly with a touch of earth on my feet, so that my heart can flutter in peace. Well, I haven't kind of arrived to that part yet that my heart can flutter in peace. Jack is such an enormous loss to, of course, me, but I think to all of us, to the world. The one thing which is so remarkable about Jack, somebody said who took photographs of him, that he didn't have a scrap of vanity in him, and that's why he was so easy to photograph. And I think, photograph or not, he did not have a scrap of vanity in him. He just had a love for life, for living, for helping to change the world. And again, sorry for being so repetitive. Thank you all deeply.
Thank you, Aggie. It is for us to thank you for agreeing to being part of this commemoration, this celebration. Really a unique voice, a unique inspiration. And what a body of work he has left us. And I know Sarah Menefee had connection. She is back. I think if you are able to speak your poem, Sarah.
Yes, I'm very sorry.
No problem. It's not anyone's fault. It's this.
Oh boy.
It's this internet that comes in and out sometimes.
Yeah, it likes to mess with me. The timing of it.
Let's hear your poem. And
okay,
then,
it's very short.
Go ahead.
Okay, and now I understand what this windy year did portend. Ruach, oh Jack, great soul, great song, you international. Then comes the rain and the tears. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to say to everyone, thank you for participating. It's a very moving experience. I think it's a lake church. It's a ceremony of deeply moving ceremony. I want to say that you can see this, of course, on Facebook, or you can see it on the YouTube channel that I direct, the Poetry Channel, or on Don Krieger's channel later on. So keep an eye out for it and spread the word. Really, we are blessed, and I am so grateful to all of you to have been a part of this. And I know some who are very close to Jack could not be with us today, so let's be sure that we get this recording to them, and that we look for Jack's book that was about to be published in Italy. He was about to leave to go over the proofs. I would love to ask Aggie about that book. And
that's yes, that's
go ahead, tell us.
It's Jack's fourth account, which will make it 4,000 pages with all four of them together. It will be published later this year, and very exciting to be able to see that. So there will be altogether 4 accounts. I used to call them doorstops because they were so heavy. I said, another doorstop. But I'm looking forward to that doorstop, as we all are.
Here's the third arcane. So imagine 3 more.
Yeah, 4,000 pages.
It's amazing, the binding art.
I know,
art of the
extraordinary.
All right, well, let's please keep us informed of that.
Yes.
And let's meet again and read Jack again at some point. Have a good afternoon and evening and morning, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Indran. Thank you.
And as Jack always signs off his email, sempre, sempre, sempre.
Sempre, sempre.
Thank you. Much love. Okay.